Hi all, this is Simona Rich, and in this video I'm going to analyze the natal chart of Ranbir Kapoor, a famous Indian actor, as well as read his palms. So it's not exactly sure when he was born, although it is told in Astro.com in source notes that his birth took place between 9 to 11 p.m. and I checked these times, and the ascendant Taurus suits him the most. So I do believe that he was born at around 9 p.m. or a little later. He told, and I watched some of his interviews, he told in one of the interviews that his sense of smell is very strong. This is the Taurus Ascendant sign. And also he has the kind of eyes that Taurus, that Taurus Ascendant people have, and he has good hair, although his features are not as strong as of Taurus natives, but I think that's because the ruler of his ascendant is in its fall. It's in Virgo, and Venus feels really bad staying in the sign, and it's his chart ruler. So that already means that although he's sensitive, very creative, very physical person who likes, who pays attention to the sense of touch, the sense of smell, food is very important to him. As I said, he's very creative, he's very artistic. He loves beauty and harmony, yet because Venus is in its fall, because of this location of Venus, life is not going to be easy, and you would think that it's not the case because he is the child of famous people and he always has money, but that's not everything that gives happiness in a person's life. So this kind of placement shows that there will be unhappiness, there will be struggles, and it could be because of unfortunate love life, especially because of Venus location in Virgo. So he may have many unsuccessful love affairs, and we know that it's true. And his hand shows that as well. And often we find that if the hand has some problem with the heart line, we need to look at what the problem is in the natal chart. That's why I love combining astrology, palmistry, numerology, because then you get a comprehensive view of the person. And so he is indeed a very creative individual, loving harmony and beauty. However, he has square between Venus and Neptune, and this square is tight, -1 degree 19 seconds. So this kind of square will give total blindness in love. He just will project what he wants to see in another person. Again, that's another reason why his love life is not successful. And this kind of square, although it makes him a very creative person and a born actor, this square also means that there will be dangers of developing addictions, and it's the case with him because everyone knows that he's addicted to mind-altering substances, and he also struggled to quit smoking when he was younger. So this is a personality that's very addictive. So it's best not to start any kind of substance as such, because this person is very sensitive to such substances, all kinds of chemical substances, and it's going to be very hard to quit it. And this kind of square also can show that he may try to, it would be difficult for him to fight with big difficulties in life, and instead he may prefer retreating into the world of fantasy or numbing himself with drugs. And this is actually a very dangerous square to have in his chart, because we can see that Neptune is placed in the house of death, and it's such a tight square between it and his chart ruler, and this means that he may experience premature death. And the cause of death, because we know his circumstances, and Neptune stands for mind-altering substances, the cause could be overdose or something to do with drinking too much. Neptune also stands for water, drowning. Another meaning of this kind of combination would be dying in mysterious circumstances, something unclear about death, getting sick for some unknown reason and dying. And it's such a dangerous placement to have when some planet negatively, tightly targets your chart ruler from the 8th house, the house of death. So every time this planet is triggered through transit, there is a threat to one's life. And if it's to do with mind-altering substances, he may have escaped, had some lucky escapes, but then it could be that at the end he will not escape some major overdose or something like this. So this is a very dangerous placement to have. Looking now at his second house, we find the ruler of it to be Mercury, and it's placed in the 5th house. Oh, actually, I forgot to say it. So his chart ruler is also placed in 5th house. Venus in 5th house will give love affairs. Venus sextile Uranus will give sudden love affairs, strange fascinations with unusual people, getting along with them very well, yet Venus placement in its fall in the 5th house is not good for committed relationships. So he may want to have committed relationships. A lot of his energy is invested in relationships, yet it's hard because of this placement. Now let's discuss his second house, the house of finances, which is ruled by Mercury, and it's again in the house of self-expression, good time. So this is excellent what he does. He is trying to express himself. This is his job, acting, and that's what makes him generate money. And also it's shown that it's through relationships, maintaining good relationships with people, that he is going to gain more in finances. And also there is direct indication that he may become famous and get acknowledgement and much income from the public, because we can see that Mercury trines Moon, and Moon conjuncts his midheaven. So this kind of conjunction of Moon in a stable sign can certainly give him popularity. And we can see that the Moon has 2 trines, and it only negatively aspects one planet, which is the greatest benefic. It negatively aspects Jupiter, and this negative aspect shows that he's very emotional person, but actually it's good in his work, and Jupiter is in his 6th, so he can employ those exaggerated emotions in his acting, and that's excellent for entertainment, to see those emotions in the open. So this is the only negative aspect that the Moon has. So that's actually not even a negative aspect. It just shows that emotions are exaggerated, but it's a good aspect for finances, though it can make people a little careless with finances, but other aspects should be also considered. But it's actually a favorable aspect between these planets, the way that I see it. Now, when looking at the third house, and also we can see actually that the second house, the house of finances, contains his north node, which means that he's supposed to, in this life, keep improving his skills, keep gathering his resources, and also that's about financial resources. So in this life is about gaining in personal resources. And also, since this north node is located in the sign of Cancer, it's also to do with family. So maybe he will feel the need to have his own family, and he may actually really would love to have children, because we can find Venus, Sun and Mercury in his house of children. So he may, I hope he will get children. He probably wants to have children, and if he has children, probably those children will give him happiness. The third house, it's the house of the mind, and also about brothers and sisters and the neighborhood. And we can find that the ruler of it conjuncts midheaven, which could mean that siblings may become famous, they may be focused on work, and also the way how he was brought up. He may have been brought up in the place where work was very important, so the atmosphere was the atmosphere of work, the atmosphere of success, trying to gain more and more success. It was a lot about the career, so this is the kind of atmospheres he grew up in. And his neighbors may have been prominent people and people who focused on work a lot. This kind of placement of the ruler of the house of the mind also indicates that he thinks a lot about his career. It's very important to him. Many of his thoughts are focused about how to become better, how to be perceived better. It means that his public image is actually very important to him. And also because the third house ruler is located in Aquarius, it means that friends are also very important to him, and he thinks a lot about his friends or just groups, people, society, like maybe he wants to improve their lives in some way, make them happier through his acting and so forth. Now the fourth house, the house of family, and his root is ruled by Leo, which is a royal sign. It's the sign of fame and self-expression, and indeed we find that he is the son of famous people. His father especially was very famous. And the ruler of the family house is in the fifth house. So again, as we can see that there are no afflictions to the sun, so this means that he had a happy childhood, that it was an easy childhood, that he was pampered and he had fun when he was growing up. It was really like free time pretty much all the time when he was growing up. So though he grew up in a neighborhood focused on work and success, he was pampered when he was growing up around this atmosphere, and he didn't perceive, his childhood as difficult. He was allowed to have a very good time, though he did have that atmosphere around him of people working hard to succeed. 3 of his planets are in the house of self-expression, free time, and love affairs, and they're important. They are 3 personal planets, which means that it's very important for him to be entertained, and he loves to entertain people, and he likes being entertained. He wants to have the kind of job that allows him to enjoy himself and which feels like holiday. And this kind of placement shows that he's a pleasant and creative personality, and it's interesting to spend time with him. So no wonder people do have good opinion about him, and usually he is seen as a person that is easy to get along with and who is friendly and, interesting to be around. A lot of him is invested in relationships also, because 2 of his personal planets, actually 4 planets in total, 2 personal planets and 2 other planets, Outer and Saturn, are in Libra. So a lot of his energy is invested in relationships. Relationships are very important to him, yet because we find Mars in the house of relationships, though it's not badly aspected, it has sextile to the Sun. Oh wow, very tight one. This gives him extra vitality, this sextile. So since there is Mars there, a lot of energy is invested, but there is also Uranus in the house of relationships, so there could be sudden starts of relationship and sudden ends, because he may not take enough time to think whether he should get into the relationship with someone, and then suddenly he does, and then later they split up. And also this kind of placement indicates that he may have love affairs abroad, that he may have love affairs with foreign people, and this also indicates that the kind of women that he chooses would have unusual spiritual views. They may be working for improvement of humanity in some way, and they will be courageous, and they will want to explore the world, and they would be independent and interesting individuals. And since Venus is located in Virgo, it also means that he would like women who are neat in appearance, elegant, and who are workers, who love work, and those who have good figures because they're into health and exercise. And Taurus, often Taurus ascendants get more stout as they age, but we see that he doesn't. And I think that this can be attributed to his chart ruler being in Virgo, which is the sign of health, the sign of daily routines. So it could mean that daily exercise or good eating habits are important to him, and this may keep him physically healthy. Now, when we are moving to the 6th house, we again find 3 planets there, and the first is Jupiter, and then we can find also conjunction of Pluto and Saturn in the 6th house, and this is the influence of a father, Saturn and Pluto conjunction, and this kind of conjunction shows some things about his dad. So it shows that he was an intense, important, somehow noticeable, powerful individual, that he invested a lot of his time in relationships. Relationships were very important to him, and it also shows that he was a naturally creative person who may have indeed been an actor because of the sextile we find between this conjunction and Neptune. And these placements of 3 planets in the house of work shows that he is going to focus a lot on his work, and he's going to give of himself, especially emotionally, to his work, that his work will be a lot to do with forming relationships, deep relationships. Maybe through forming relationships he gets employment, he gets his acting jobs, and he will invest a lot of himself emotionally in what he does, and this actually will be accepted by the public to generate income and fame for him. And this placement of Jupiter in Scorpio is the placement that makes people focused on intimacy a lot, and they will be, should I say it or not, this placement means that he is an experienced lover, and that it would be difficult once you are seriously in relationship with him to discontinue it because of his experience. And there are other things, but I don't want to talk about that because it's too personal about him. And it can also indicate that he can have many intimate partners. So there are many indicators of that. And health-wise, he should be careful about blood sugar, circulation problems. He should be careful about all kinds of growths. So he should check if there are no growths, tumors, malignant or non-malignant tumors, because this may sometimes indicate that venereal problems. Also, he should, there is a possibility of getting some illness as such. And also, we can find that together with his chart ruler being negatively aspected by Neptune, which indicates already addictions, addictive personality, we unfortunately find Pluto and Saturn conjunction, sextile his Neptune in the 8th house. So again, this could mean that once he forms some kind of addiction, it's going to be a daily habit. So it's so important for him to be very careful what new he tries out, because it can be for life. It's going to be very difficult to discontinue it. So I already discussed the meaning of these planets in the 7th house and the house of relationships. I've discussed Neptune in the 8th house, and I've also discussed Moon conjunct midheaven, meaning that he may indeed become famous. And there are no other planets here. I can quickly just check some meanings of these rest of the houses. So house of friends and goals, is the ruler of it is Neptune in the 8th. So it means that he may be addicted to mind-altering substances because of his friends, that his friends can cause his downfall. So he needs to be careful what kind of friends he chooses. The ruler of 12th is Mars. So this means that he also needs to be careful with whom he gets into relationships, because again this can contribute to his own self-undoing, because once he's in a relationship, he's going to put a lot of emotional intensity, invest a lot of emotional intensity in other people, and if they disappoint him, he may be really down. So because he feels very deeply, so he needs to be careful what kind of people he forms relationships with, although this could be difficult to do because of Uranus being involved, which makes people take sudden action without thinking much about it. So this is the interpretation of his natal chart. I hope that you found it useful, and I'm also going to quickly look at his palms. Hi again, this is Simona Rich. Yesterday I finished recording the video about the natal chart interpretation of Ranbir Kapoor, and then I felt tired, so I decided to make his palm interpretation the next day. So I'm going to show you some pictures that I found of his hand. Firstly, I will show his left hand. This picture, and it's different from the right hand, so I'm going to zoom in. I've just downloaded those pictures, so I'm going to analyze as I go. His hand is a little bit mixed because we see that the fingers are, the tips of the fingers are of different shapes. This one looks a little bit spatulate. These are round shapes. This looks more pointed. But in general, the hand has water features. So you could classify this as a water hand, which means that this is the hand that many creative people possess. People such as actors, such as what he does. And we can see that there is a problem with the heart line. In this hand, actually, it looks like the heart line doesn't exist, but it does. We can see it's here, but it starts so low, and it looks like it's starting, it's below the Saturn mount, which makes, so these are the inherited tendencies that I'm analyzing, because this is his left palm, and I'm sure he is right-handed, and if it's not the case, let me know, but I'm sure he is right-handed. So this is his left hand, which shows inherited tendencies, and the heart line is so bad. And surprise, surprise, in his natal chart, Venus is in Virgo in its fall. So we can see that if we combine these two arts, we get amazing results, much more comprehensive ones. So because the heart line is in such a bad shape, it's in a bad position, this makes him think about the other sex with his head only, not with his emotions. Again, this is the inherited tendency. So he will decide whether, he will take many things into consideration, whether to be with someone, whether to marry someone or not. And it's not going to be only that they have good energy together or that they feel great together. It's going to be a lot about who this person is and what he considers important in a person. He will take that into consideration, and he's not going to be led by emotions. And this kind of start of the heart line, again, some palm readers say here it starts, some say it starts from here. Generally, people think the heart line starts from here. So the start of the heart line here indicates that he may be self-centered and selfish in relationships and extremely physical. So it's not going to be about spirituality, because we don't see any branches starting from the Mount of Jupiter. So it's not going to be anything about idealism, spirituality, but it's going to be about practical matters and sexuality, physical things. And we can see that the headline is sloping, indicating creative nature, imaginative nature. The moon mount is well developed. So he's a highly imaginative and creative person. And again, this kind of headline, sloping headline, tends to be found on water hands. And unfortunately, the lifeline is so faint, you cannot even see if it has any breaks, if it continues here or not. This is a very bad sign, because all of these lines are short. The heart line is short because it starts from Saturn mount. The headline is short, it finishes somewhere here. And the lifeline, I couldn't find a clearer picture, but it looks like if it has any breaks here, it's a very bad sign also. So again, like the natal chart, this warns of a possible premature death, so he has to be so careful. And his thumb is very long, but it looks kind of weak. It doesn't look strong. So there could be that he has willpower, the capacity for strong willpower, but maybe he hasn't yet developed it. And this is not a dot. I think he just put it, this is probably an ink mark and not a dot. I don't believe it's the dot. And now I'm going to analyze his right hand. So here you can see both of his hands. Let's see if I can zoom in. This is a pretty clear picture, but again, it's not detailed picture. But we can see that there is a big difference between his left and right hands. Big difference. The shape of the heart is different. The shape of the headline is different. And lifeline is also different. Now let's look more in detail of his right hand. So I have 3 pictures of his right hand just to get a clearer idea of what's happening there, because all of them are not very clear, but it's difficult to find clear pictures in his case. This hand shows so this is his active hand, and look at the heart line. It's broken. It again, like in the left hand, it starts from Saturn mount, which shows selfish and physical tendencies in relationships. I already explained what that means. And this is, although it starts higher up than in the left hand, it breaks. And we can see that it starts going up towards the mount of Mercury. And then the rest of the heart line continues lower here. So it means that he was very attracted to making money, to the business side of life. And so he was so attracted to that it influenced everything in his life, and it influenced his choices in love. And because there is a break, it means he very much changed in nature, and he started to be calculative in relationships, and he will take into consideration whether the person is well off or not. So a very bad hard line to have. He has a lot of healing to do in terms of his loving nature. At the moment it's not functioning well, and although people see him on screen as a very lovely person, unfortunately in relationships he can be very calculative, and it's not going to be anything spiritual, but it's going to be a very physical relationship. And looking at the headline, again, we see a huge change. It probably finishes somewhere here, but I'm not sure because of not clear picture. But this headline is straight as a ruler, which means that he became much more practical than before. Maybe because he has a water hand, he's very sensitive, and it became too much for him, and he changed his nature and he became much more practical. So this hand shows more calculating nature, whilst the left hand shows more emotional, though he was still led by the head in relationships, but the right hand shows much more calculating traits. And we can see that his Mercury finger is very long. I don't know if it's the picture, but it's a very long finger, and that would mean that again he has an excellent business sense, and he's a great salesperson and business person. And again, the lifeline doesn't seem clear. It kind of looks like it's broken here, but it could be just the picture. I will check other pictures as well. I have this one. let's zoom in. And again, I kind of don't see any line here. It's so strange. And the health line goes somewhere here. And often when the health line, if it touches the lifeline, that's when health starts going wrong. He has to take care of himself. And this is, I guess, the clearest picture of his right hand. So let's check this one. Oh wow, this shows that the lifeline is longer than I thought, so that's great. But again, it's probably till here, so that's good. And the length of the headline is also kind of, it's probably till here, so that's much better. But again, the line gets very faint here, and it's hard to predict age-wise when he really has to be careful in life, because the line is not clear enough for such predictions. So I'm not going to do that, but I'm happy to see that it's longer. The line looks longer than I thought it is. So, but it doesn't continue the normal length. So still it applies what I said, that he really has to look after his health so that he reaches old age. So that's all I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching. Have a great day. Take care.